Evening, everyone. I hope you've all had a chance to grab a cup of tea or something to drink and settle in for this very informative program. Trees are a superpower in the fight against climate change. The Yarn Arms Around Port project celebrates what we at Residents Forward believe in most: preserving, protecting, and loving our trees. We look forward to the process and community building that will happen over the coming months, and to the finished product when these arms hug our trees for the entirety of Earth Month, April 2022. Stay tuned for details on some environmental education tree-specific programming we have planned for that month as well. So my job tonight is to thank a very long list of people, so I'm going to get started with that. Firstly, I'd like to thank Allison White for bringing us this project. Nothing is more exciting to us at Residents Forward than bringing a community member's dream to life around our mission. Next up, Supervisor Bosworth, Councilwoman Dalamonte, and Deputy Town Attorney Yael Spitzer. Without our partnership with the town and their willingness to collaborate and support, this could never happen. Thank you to the Residents Forward Board of Directors, especially Yarn Arms committee members, Melissa Vesicchio, Mindy Germain, Cynthia Littman, and Dawn Saragnese. Leah Siskin has been instrumental in helping to create our flyers and forms, our social media posts, and spreadsheets. Pam O'Connell is on PR, working hard on press releases and all our media reach outs. Mary Alice Coase is our pattern tester and technical crochet expert. Anna Quespi translated our flyer into Spanish. And lastly, our Port Washington Public Library team, Keith Klang, Jeff Zay, Rachel Fox, John Fields, and Lynn Mosner. And finally, I just want to read a very long list of supporting organizations and thank them very much for their support. The Alana Benjamin Group and Frank Ullman, and the Knitting Place. The Art Guild of Port Washington, Be the Rainbow, the Cowneck Peninsula Historical Society, Growing Love Community Garden, Hearts Port Washington, Landmark on Main Street, the Liddig House Community Center, the Nicholas Center, the Parent Resource Center, Port Washington Chamber of Commerce, Port Washington Children's Center, and of course, the library. Additionally, Town Clerk Wayne Wink, Nassau County Legislator Delia DeRigi-Whitten, New York State Assemblywoman Gina Solitti, and New York State Senator Anna Kaplan. Thank you, Betsy Golan, for joining us from Anna's office. And I see Gina too, so great to see you as well. How did I do, Allison?
Thank you, Trish. That was wonderful. I want to add my thanks to all the amazing people that Trish mentioned and give a huge thank you to Trish for her leadership at Residents and on this project. And this project, as you've heard, really takes a village. And I'm so grateful to everyone for all they've done and for all of you for being here. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the project, who's been involved, a bit about yarn bombing, how the trees we picked to yarn bomb were selected, what the yarn arms will look like, as well as the volunteer roles for both those who crochet and those who don't. We need everyone. Then we'll answer some questions, including some technical stuff for the crocheters. And if you need to leave the Zoom before the end of the presentation, it is being recorded and will be on the library's website. We also encourage you to join our Facebook group called Yarn Arms Around Port. If you go on Facebook and you search Yarn Arms Around Port, you'll be able to find it, and we'll be posting updates there. For anyone not on Facebook, you can always email us at yarnarmsaroundport@gmail.com and we'll get back to you. So if you have questions, you can always send them there if they don't get answered tonight.
I'm sorry, I just want to welcome in Councilwoman Delamonte. She joined as well, and we just want to give her a special thank you for all of her support and help in getting this pushed through.
Yes, and I would like to thank her for especially helping me at the very beginning and getting me hooked up with all of the other amazing people and organizations that are helping. So shout out to Marianne. Now, if I could figure out how to share my screen, I know how to do this. It should be right here. There we go. And there. Can you see it? Yes. Okay. Can everybody see that? The Yarn Arms Around Port slide? Yes, okay. The Yarn Arms Around Port, we plan on decorating up to 50 trees on Main Street. And as Trish said, the goal is to bring the community together to create public art. And the idea behind it was to raise environmental awareness and also to celebrate the diversity of Port Washington. And then with all of the challenges that the business community has been facing with the pandemic, we also hope that it will attract people to Port Washington and bring people out. And that in turn will help the local businesses. Plus, knitted yarn bombs are fun and they just are, bring joy to people and create some excitement. So that's the goal of the goals of the project. And as you've heard, we've formed a partnership between me and residents, and I'm going to oversee the project direction, and residents is generously providing the fiscal oversight, the insurance, those kinds of technical things that we need to do the project, as well as the environmental education component. So next, and probably most important, are the volunteers in the community who'll be enlisted to make the arms and also to assist us in putting them together, hanging them up, taking them down, and all the other pieces that we need to make this a success. And I'm not going to read the long list of organizations that are helping as supporting organizations, but we really appreciate all that they've done thus far and all that we know they'll continue to do throughout the project. And if you have a group that we have not been in touch with yet, whether that's your church or synagogue, a scout troop, any kind of organization you're a part of and you'd like to join as a supporting organization, please email us again at yarnarmsaroundport@gmail.com. So for those who don't know me, I am a former not-for-profit professional and a longtime volunteer and activist in the Port community. And I've been crocheting since I was a child and knitting for about the last 10 years. And I think the person who taught me how to knit, Barbara Taffet, is on this call. So thank you, Barbara. And in 2020, I had the chance to meet a very famous yarn bomber by the name of London Kay. If you want to look at some really cool art, Google London Kay. I got to meet her and I was inspired, and I've been yarn bombing ever since. So these are some of the yarn bombs I've done. The koala bear is the very first one I did. And the love one is the one that was on the landmarks tree during Pride Month. And the Kamala Harris one is me pointing to the one square that I did in that very big mural that yarn bombers all over the country participated in. So that was a really fun thing. And that hung in Washington, DC. So what is yarn bombing for those that don't know? It's a form of fiber art. It can also be a form of craftivism, bringing craft and activism together. A lot of yarn bombing calls attention to the built and urban environment, although there are some yarn bombs that are done, in nature, but most of it is calling attention to what built an urban environment. So the thing that I love most about yarn bombing is that it changes the way you look at things. You can't look at these benches, once you see something like that, or a pole that's dressed in yarn, it really makes you look at that object differently. And so these are just some other yarn bombs that other people did. And then when groups of people come together to create large yarn installations, it's called a yarn storm. And so Yarn Arms Around Port is going to create a yarn storm. And the way that we figured out, or I figured out which trees on Main Street we should yarn bomb was I literally walked up and down Main Street and I looked at the trees, and I had to consider things like whether the trunk was strong enough to support a yarn arm, if there were no low-hanging branches, because we don't want to hurt the tree in any way and we don't want the branches to interfere. And also to make sure that the ground around the tree is flat, because and there's no shrubs or flowers that would get damaged, because you do sometimes have to climb a ladder to hang a yarn bomb. And then also if the trees was visible to either people passing in their cars or walking by. So I identified 44 trees that belong to the town of North Hempstead, and I'm not going to show them all to you, but this is the one in front of Frank's Pizza, and there's Linda of Frank's Pizza hugging the tree. This is Alfredo, and I believe her name is Giovanna, outside of Gino's. These are some teenagers hanging out in front of Starbucks. So this is another tree. And one of the reasons we plan to yarn bomb the trees in the way that we did is we don't want to hurt the trees. So we've selected to use crochet, and in particular something called granny squares, because granny squares have holes, and that will help the tree breathe through the yarn. And also we're only going to leave the yarn on the tree for a very limited period of time. Nothing's going to be stuck in the tree. And the yarn has give, it stretches, so the tree will still be able to breathe and grow. So that's that. And then how will the yarn arms be made? Now, if I want to make my screen smaller so I can show you, let me go back. Maybe I can't. Might not be able to do this. Let's see. All right, I'm not gonna do that then.
You can try escape.
Escape. Let's see. There we go. But you still can't see me, right? No.
Oh, you would have to stop sharing.
I have to stop sharing. All right.
You want to hold something up? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah. But I think I'll just wait till the end
Wait,
and do that. Okay. Let me just go back to
how about this?
what?
Is
Oh,
it spotlighted now, John? No. You would
no.
have,
I have to stop sharing. I didn't realize that. Sorry about that. Oh, there we go. Stop sharing. Here we go.
okay.
Now, can you see me? You can see me. Okay. So this is the yarn arm, one of the yarn arms that we made. Can you see it? Yes? No? not so well.
I think you might
Yes,
need to turn your background off.
I need to do that too. All right, I'll do that at the
It's
end.
complicated.
I know it's a little complicated. I think I'll go back to
Go
sharing.
back to share, and then after you can turn
Yeah,
your
I'm gonna
background
turn off my
off,
background. That's what I
and
think.
everyone can go to speaker view. And,
Yeah, okay, and then we'll do that part. Okay. So anyway, we need a lot of volunteers to do this. And I'm just gonna go over the non-crochet volunteers for people who don't crochet and might not be able to learn at this time. So we plan on having a measuring team because although we identified which trees we wanted to yarn bomb, we haven't measured the circumference of the trees. And we need to go out and measure all of those trees at about approximately 5 to 6 inches, 6 feet from the ground. And ideally, we'd like to do that in the next few weeks before the snow comes. So someone asked me if there were ways that children could participate with a grown-up. And I think this would be a great way to do that. It could be like a math lesson. In fact, you could take your child out to go measure, and you might not have a tape measure, long enough to measure the tree. So you can use a piece of string or yarn and show that to your child too. So that's an opportunity for some people. Then we're going to need people to install the yarn arms on the tree. That's going to happen hopefully the last week of March, weather permitting, and hopefully on a weekend. And that will require possibly standing on a step stool or a ladder. So that's going to be for adults only. And then volunteers with other special skills like photographers or printers, graphic designers, anyone that wants to help organize or do some small events for us like crochet nights, organizing those things. Those kinds of people are needed as well. So then we have the fiber artists. So we do need experienced crocheters to make the hands, and the hands on our prototypes I made based on a book called Protest Knits by Geraldine Warner. And this book is hopefully going to be available at the Port Washington Public Library, or you can purchase it. And for anyone that does, I just want to let you know that it is written in English crochet terms, which are different than American crochet terms, but it does have American crochet terms in the parentheses. So if you get the book and you start making hands, just be aware of that. You're also, if you're a really great freeform crocheter, welcome to make your own version of hands, so long as they end up being about 11 inches long and the wrist is no more than 7 inches wide. And you can decorate the hands however you'd like. Please use your creativity. I have one volunteer that told me that she plans on adding H spots to hers, but you can add a ring or nail polish or any other kind of embellishment. And then I just want to talk about the yarn for the hands and the yarn for this project. We are asking that you only use acrylic yarn because it holds up best outdoors and it doesn't retain as much water as natural fiber, which is better for the tree. And the Knitting Place, which is our local yarn shop here in Port Washington, has donated the skin tone colored yarn for the hands. And if you're an experienced crocheter and you'd like to make a pair of hands with the skin tone yarn, just email us and we'll get in touch with you and arrange to get the yarn to you, or you can pick it up. For other crocheters who don't want to have to crochet freeform or knit from a crochet from a chart, we need many people to make granny squares. And I happen to love making granny squares, so I'm planning on making lots of them. But you can make your granny square using any pattern you want. You can do a basic pattern, you can do a complicated pattern, you can do pattern with a design within the square, any color. It just needs to be about 8 inches square. If it's a drop bigger, drop smaller, don't sweat it. This is a pretty forgiving project, and we appreciate every square that we get. And the library has lots of books on crochet and granny squares, and there's lots of other online resources that you can look. And two of good ones are called Ravelry and Pinterest. And if you Google basic granny square pattern, you'll get a lot of results for free patterns there too. So the next steps, please sign up to volunteer for any of the jobs, the tree measuring, the crocheting, the installation team. And you can do it by filling out the Google form that we have. Trish, can you pop the Google form in the chat? Trish? Trish, can you hear me? Trish.
She's trying to do it.
Oh, she's trying to do it. Okay, because
Yeah.
I can't see her.
Meanwhile, I'm gonna put up Creative Bug, which is something that the library has.
Oh yeah, I'm getting to that. That's
Oh,
a
okay.
later slide, but you can
Okay.
put it in the chat, Rachel.
I put the link, yeah, I put the link up to that.
Yeah, all right. Well, Trish is getting the form in the chat. I'll go on. The tree measuring is going to start soon. We're going to have a Google sign up sheet, and we'll give you the specific tree to measure, and you can go out and measure it. And please help us spread the word by sharing, telling your friends and neighbors about the project, sharing our notices about calls for volunteering, things like that. And if you'd like to make a financial donation to Yarn Arms, please email Kim Kaiserman, the Development Director of Residents Forward. And she's at kim@pwresidents.org. So now I'm going to go on to the questions that I've been getting. And you may, this may be one of your questions, but if it's not, you can ask in the chat. So big question we've been getting is, what if you don't know how to crochet, but you want to learn? And the answer is that we're hoping to set up learn to crochet events in the next few months. We're just, trying to figure out how to do that in a way that's safe with the COVID situation. But in the meantime, many people in our community already know how to crochet, so you may already know someone who can teach you. And then the Port Library, as Rachel mentioned, has this wonderful resource called Creative Bug, which normally you have to pay a fee to join, but if you have a library card and you set up an account using your library card number, you can get it for free. And they have really great craft workshops, including a beginner crochet series by a teacher named Cal Patch, who I think is a really great crochet teacher. And then another question I got is, what side hook and weight yarn should I use? And the answer is, it's not a simple answer. But for this project, worsted weight or DK or Aran weight yarn should all be fine. The important thing is just to adjust the size of your hook, so you end up with a granny square that's about 8 inches. And the reason I can't definitively tell you what size hook and yarn to use is because it varies by individual based on your gauge, and meaning how many stitches you make per inch. So if your yarn has a label, it should give you a suggested hook size, but a beginner might want to start on an H hook. And if the stitches are too loose, go down a hook size. And if they're too tight, go up a hook size. Next one. And what if I'm a knitter and I don't crochet? Because I know there's a couple people on here like that. If you can knit from a chart using garter stitch, my suggestion is that you could knit the hands in garter stitch. We did have someone do this and it worked out fine. So again, just send us an email and we'll try to get you started. And knitters who also know how to sew things together with yarn can also help us sew the squares and the yarn together. Another question is, do I need to weave in the ends? And the answer is, if you know how, please do so. If you don't know how, don't worry about it. And if you're making the hands or the squares and you've left long tails at the outer edge, you don't have to weave those in because we can use them to sew the squares and the hands together. Also, if you enjoy sewing by hand, you can also help us sew the hands and squares together. We'll be able to hook you up with the yarn and the needle. And then here is Mary Alice, one of our volunteers. She's on this call. What do you do after you make some squares or the hands? Please bring your finished objects to the collection bin at the Port Washington Library. I was there today. It's located in the lobby at the checkout desk. And if you have access to our Facebook page, you can print out what we're calling a donation form for your finished objects and fill it out. It just asks for your name, your email address, your phone, and a little description of what you're donating, like 3 squares in blue, or, you can write whatever little description, and you can safety pin it, the form, to your crocheted pieces. And then that way we'll know how to acknowledge you among all of the fiber artists that are part of this project. So there are forms and safety pins at the library if you don't have access to the Facebook page. And if you're comfortable, please take a picture of yourself before dropping off your pieces, because we'd love to share them on our Facebook page. And then another question I've gotten is, why did you decide to do this project and how did you get the idea? And there were a couple of reasons. One was during the lockdown of the pandemic, I started making yarn bombs and hanging them around Port Washington. And I was pleasantly surprised at how many people noticed them and they really enjoyed them. They seemed to really enjoy them. At least they told me they did. But as one person, I was limited in what I could do, by myself. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Helen Keller: alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So I knew that other communities had done community-wide yarn bombs, and I love the diversity of Port Washington. One of the things that I do is I teach in the ESOL program, the citizenship class for immigrants to our community who are interested in becoming citizens, trying to prepare for the test. And I wanted a project, I thought it would be nice to showcase the diversity of our town, and a way to demonstrate our inclusiveness in a public way. So and then I saw a scarf that kind of looked like it's called the tree hugger scarf, and I thought, what if we put these on the trees? So that's kind of how I got the idea. And then another question I keep getting is, can you donate the leftover yarn or old yarn that you have when you tried to knit a sweater and it didn't work out, or you got it from somebody else? And the answer is, although you might be able to use it for this project, we do not have the space to take your yarn or the wherewithal to coordinate distributing it to somebody else. And the other thing I just want people to be aware of is that old yarn, and really any yarn, can attract moths and other insects. So that's kind of a crocheter and knitter's worst nightmare. So we don't want that to happen. So if you do have old yarn, or you get some from someone else, I do advise putting it in an airproof container, like a Tupperware container or something like that, and leaving it in there for a while. And you might even want to put it in your freezer just to make sure that there's nothing that you don't want in there before you use it. So here's another question. Where can you get yarn to make granny squares if you don't have any? I just would like to ask everybody to consider shopping local. The Knitting Place, which is our local knitting store at 191 Main Street, does sell acrylic yarn in many colors, and they have crochet hooks. And their hours are Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 12:30 to 3:30 right now. In addition, Rain Dew, Michaels, and other craft stores sell tons of acrylic yarn and crochet hooks as well. And as I said, you may already have a friend or neighbor with extra yarn, so ask around. But we don't want anyone not to participate in the crocheting if you have a challenge in obtaining yarn. So if you're homebound and you can't get out or have any other issue, please email us and we'll figure it out. So finally, last question I've been getting is, what will happen to the yarn arms when the Earth Month is over and we take them down? So the weather is going to impact the condition of the arms. We don't know exactly what they're going to look like when they come down, but they're probably not going to be good for human use, but we are hoping they can still be reused, perhaps by a nonprofit that is, assisting animals or rescuing animals, that kind of thing. So now I just would like to ask for the other questions and to thank everybody for coming. And I have our email address again, yarnarmsaroundport@gmail.com. And I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen. Stop sharing my screen. There I go. Right, can you see me now? Yes, okay. And I'm going to change my background. There we go. And I'll just hold up the yarn arm that I didn't get to hold up before. But these are like what the fingers sort of look like when they're not on the tree. And I have a pair of hands. Actually, Mary Alice made these hands, and you can see just what the hand looks like. Just for anyone who's going to crochet or knit the hands, that's what the hand looks like. And of course, there's two. And then this is what the individual squares can look like. And you can do any color, any yarn. It's a great project for on the go. Take it to all of your, when you're waiting at the doctor. And the other thing I wanted to say is, please don't sew anything together. Keep your pieces separate. Somebody asked me that today, because part of why we're measuring the trees is so that when we go out to do the installation, we have a yarn arm ready that will fit on that particular tree. So we'll all be getting together to sew them, or we'll be giving like one person enough pieces to sew one to the size we need at a later date. So don't sew anything together, please. So if John, do you want to read me? Are there any other questions?
Yes, the first one was about the Facebook group and where they can find that.
Okay, if you go on Facebook, you should have a search, like a little window with, I think it looks like a magnifying glass. And if you type in, look for groups, and you type in Yarn Arms Around Port, you should be able to find it. And there's a couple questions that you have to answer, and then we admit you to the group.
How will the yarn arms be affixed to the trees?
So one of the things is that because the trees have bark, they do kind of like hold it in place a little bit. That helps. And then the way let me show you the actual arm. The way the arm, like the hands go in front, and then the granny squares go around, and so they'll be like a shoelace tied onto the back, and will make the arm about the width of the tree, so it'll stay up. We tie it on with other yarn, kind of like a shoelace.
Not a question, but a comment. Squares made from old yarn should be washed before donating.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that would be a wise idea.
When doing hands, would you like cuffs crocheted attached to the hands?
You don't have to. If you'd like to do the cuff, you could. If you do the cuff, I would recommend leaving a long tail, so we can attach it to the arm.
Should we create 2 of each granny square so they can coordinate color or pattern wise?
It's not necessary. They're going to be, because it's so many people and we're designing this so many squares can be in among the yarn arms. It's not necessary to have 2 matching. If you want to do that, you can, and we may decide that that looks good, but they also may be like more of a patchwork kind of effect.
That's it for the questions.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else? Can we unmute people now?
Yes, people should be able to unmute themselves.
Okay. So, hi, everybody.
Hi, Allison.
That was a
Hi, Allison.
very thorough presentation, Allison.
Great presentation.
I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. That is not my strong point. But if anybody has any questions or comments, Trish,
Where can we get the pattern?
The
Where can we
patterns?
get patterns for the hands?
Just email me. But the
Okay.
book, I'll show you what the, I do have the book here somewhere. I think it's under my granny squares. The chart for the hands was in this book called Protest Knits. And I'm hopeful that the library will get a copy. I did call Dolphin today and they can't get it because
Really?
their distributor doesn't have it. But I'm pretty sure you can get it on, that other large online place that I don't like to mention.
Mhm.
Yeah. But if you email us, we can help you too.
Okay, great,
So just email us and we'll get a pattern to you.
terrific.
Thank
Hi, Sharon.
Oh, Marcia. Wow. Marcia's holding up her squares that I think she made today already. Hey, Marcia, they look good.
Last couple of days.
Yeah. All right. Did everybody understand the thing about the form? this is what it looks like. So if you have access to our Facebook page, it is there in the files. And it's to save paper, we made like 3 donation forms on one sheet. So if you don't have access to the Facebook page and you can't download and print out the form, don't worry. There are these little, cut up slips at the library next to the donation bin, and there's safety pins there. So you can safety pin the form. You can fill it out at the library, safety pin it to your squares or your hands, and then leave it in the bin, and we'll get it and put it together.
What is the time frame for this?
So the arms are gonna be put up the end of March, which means we hope to be sewing them together, assembling them in February and March. So ideally, everybody would do their crocheting between now and January, February. We don't have a hard deadline of when we're going to stop accepting the crocheting, but we probably will put that out when we have enough. We'll have to, once we have the trees measured, we'll have a better idea of exactly how many squares we need. We know we'll need about 50 pairs of hands. There are some trees on Main Street that are not owned by the town of North Hempstead. They're owned by other entities, or they're owned by private, on private property. So we may try to get permission to use some of those too, if we have so many people that want to participate. And we've also thought about maybe if we have so many, expanding it to cover, maybe we'll do some by Manor Haven Park, or maybe we'll do some by the schools. But, our goal is just to get Main Street covered in all the trees that are good candidates for yarn bombs. Not every tree was a good candidate for yarn bombing. Maybe it wasn't straight enough, or it had a lot of branches low hanging. Nobody was going to see it from the street, things like that. So I didn't pick those trees, but I think there's about 42 or so trees, 44, something like that we identified.
Allison, it's Barbara.
Hi, Barbara. Barbara's the person who taught me to knit. So shout out to Barbara. And also, don't feel badly about asking your friend or neighbor to help you, because Barbara helped me for many, many years.
My question is, you did mention that you had the skin tone colors donated.
Yes.
How do I get a hold of some of that? And also my other question is the crochet chart the same as the knitting chart?
Yes, the crochet chart and the knitting chart are the same chart.
Yes, and how do I get a hold of this yarn that was donated?
You email Yarn Arms Around Port, and I will be in touch with you and arrange to get it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If someone has leftover yarn and there's no label, is there a way to tell if it's acrylic or not?
There is. If you Google how to tell what kind of yarn you have, they will tell you something about taking a match and trying to burn it a little bit and telling by the smell, and you can Google how to do that. And like, if it smells like it came from an animal, it's probably more natural fiber. And if it smells more like plastic or something synthetic, then it could be acrylic. So that's how you can figure it out if you don't have a label, but you can Google that, and I'm sure they can give you a more detailed explanation. Anything else?
I was thinking maybe the Buy Nothing Port Washington group. If
Yes.
you're looking for if you're looking for yarn, maybe you can post something on there.
Yes, yes. And if anybody really doesn't have any or can't find any on their own, just please email us and we'll get you some. We just can't supply it to every single person, but if anybody has any kind of challenge or hardship, let us know. We'll get some to you. Anything else?
Hi, Allison. It's
Hi,
Diana.
Diana, how are you?
I'm great. We'll talk about getting the Port Washington Girl Scouts together a little later, but I think it would be a lovely project for all the different age groups we have.
Yeah, definitely would.
Yeah. My question was, of course, it depends upon the diameter of the tree,
Yeah.
but approximately what would you say the average would be for how many granny squares for a whole tree?
It really depends. One of the things about this project is that when I went out to look for which trees were good candidates for yarn bomb, there were a lot of things that I had not noticed about trees before. And they all are different. I mean, they really are. And like there is a huge tree in the middle of Blumenfeld Park in the
Yes.
playground. I can't even imagine how many squares that tree's gonna take. It's gonna take a lot. The tree in the picture that was on the flyer, it was like I don't know if Alana Benjamin is on this call, but I used a tree by her house. And that one has 4 granny squares on it. It wasn't that big of a tree, but the hands, the hands are about 10 or 11 inches long. Mine came out a little bigger than Mary Alice's, but not much. Like hers is maybe, yeah, hers is maybe half an inch shorter than mine. I tend to crochet a little loosely, and Mary Alice followed the chart exactly, and I did not do that. But the hands take up about 10 or 11 inches. So if you think about that, that's like 20 or 22 inches. Plus, then when we connected them to make it pretty, we did make cuffs. We might not do that to all the trees, but we could. I kind of think I don't know, it looked good, but we'll see when we get to doing it. But that's 22 inches. And then each square you figure is 8 inches. So 16. So it just really depends on the size of the tree. There will be there's some wiggle room in the back from the way that you tie it onto the tree. So we want the measurements to be as close to, exact as possible, but we can fudge it in the tying if it's a little too short or a little too long. I mean, a little too short is actually better than a little too long.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And one more time, how will those of us who want to learn how to crochet be able to get involved with the learning?
Okay, so for the time being, when we haven't organized any crochet 101 or learn to crochet nights yet, or little events, we hope to do that. In the meantime, I would recommend that you see if you have a friend or neighbor who knows how to crochet and ask them to help you. Many people would be delighted to help you. And if you don't have someone like that, you could also go on a resource that we mentioned. It's called Creative Bug. If you go to the main page of the library's website and you scroll down, it's on the main page there. It's called Creative Bug. All you need is a library card to make a little account and sign in. And there are like several learn to crochet lessons in there, videos that you can watch. and you might be able to figure it out that way on your own. People do that. And even if you find someone to teach you in person, you might still want to use that crochet bug to reinforce what you learned. And also, I mean, YouTube has many video things on how to crochet. I'm the kind of person that I need to like be with a person to learn things, but I do rely on those kind of videos to reinforce what I learned. Some people pick it up that way though, so that might work for you. And also I will say that if you have a group of people and you want to learn how to crochet, you can let us know that, especially if you have a space where we could get together. We are hoping we might be able to use the library like after January, but it's all going to depend on the situation with COVID and if there's going to be space there. So if you have a space that we could gather in, you know, probably, you know, we're not going to want to have huge amounts of people get together, but maybe smaller groups, we might be able to do that. We're just going to have to see.
We can also reserve maybe the conference room at our building. That could be
Oh,
an
okay.
option.
Yeah, that would be great if we could do that.
We just need a lot of advance notice on that.
Okay, okay.
Allison, I have a question. It's Robin. I missed the beginning.
Oh,
And
hi,
I know,
Robin.
hi, I know you want acrylic yarn.
Mhm.
Does it have to be 100% acrylic?
Like we prefer it not to be natural fiber.
Okay.
If it doesn't really have natural fiber, I mean, if it's mostly acrylic, it should probably be fine.
I mean, I'm looking, somebody gave me some yarn
Yeah.
the other day and it's 90% acrylic,
That should be fine.
but it's 10% alpaca, but it's okay?
Probably fine, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's it. Thank you.
90-10 is no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Eleanor. I have a question, well, more of a comment, really. Allison, I really appreciate that you are recognizing the diversity and you have different tone skin. I think that is quite amazing. May I make a suggestion that perhaps we also include I love you hands in sign language or even writings attached to the hands to further demonstrate diversity?
Oh, I love that idea.
That's great.
I really love that idea. Eleanor, do you know how to, like, would you be able to make a hand like that?
I would imagine with the I love you hand, you just fold down the ring finger and the middle finger. And then that's the I love you hand shape.
Oh, but could we have it, how would we have it go around the tree though?
You could have it facing outwards.
Oh, see, Diana knows a lot about sign language. Diana, can you unmute yourself? And Diana teaches sign language. Hi,
Yeah, so
Diana.
this is what you want to see. This doesn't mean I love you. It needs to
Yeah.
kind of be in this position. So that is a bit challenging. And you want to see the two fingers folded down. This is,
Okay.
by the way, this is I,
Yeah,
letter I, this is L,
okay.
and this is the, I'm sorry, and this is the letter Y. So I-L-Y, I love you. And that's how the
Oh.
sign was, that is how the sign kind of became this symbol.
Uh-huh.
You know, I know you're gonna need, yeah, I don't know, we could play with it. I'm not really, I love, of course, the idea, but
I love the idea of it.
You could attach it along the bottom of the
That?
thumbs, like that.
Would that still be I love you?
Well, as long as you need to have the thumb, as long as it gets a little convoluted, doesn't it, visually?
Yeah.
Or maybe we do 3 hands for the I love you tree. So
Or what about a hand
I-
grasping the wrist?
Oh, like that. That's
Oh,
what you mean?
we could
5
do
years
that.
of art school.
Yeah.
nice.
All right, that's all right. I'm gonna I will know that Diana and Eleanor, I can't, Eleanor, what's your last name?
Coley Brody.
Oh, okay. Eleanor Coley Brody and Diana von Roshelab, can I ask you two ladies to connect with each other? And would you be willing to work on that and see if you could come up with a design for it?
I would love to do that.
That would
Yeah.
be fabulous. I would love that too. That's a great.
Eleanor, I'll put my, well, I'll be on the Facebook group, but I will put my email address in the chat now for you.
Does that work for you, Eleanor?
Allison, I'll email you and you can
Okay.
connect us.
Yeah, hopefully that will work out. I love that idea.
Maybe you could do the regular hands with just that also sticking up from, you know, one hand here, and then that upward.
Maybe.
I'm on my phone, so I can't really see everybody, but I could imagine you could do the pointer and the pinky finger connecting to the other side. Let me turn on my camera.
See,
If you
when
just
it's
have
this way,
this,
I don't know that it would really, it's altering the positioning of the hand. And so when it's like this, it actually isn't really that isn't, you wouldn't, if you wanted to say, I love you to someone, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You have to have it in this positioning.
That's why I'm suggesting if you do the regular hands that we're gonna do,
Yeah.
and then have a third hand.
I think that would still be recognizable on a side. It would still be recognizable.
All right. Well,
And-
we'll see what we can come up with, but I like the concept. The concept is wonderful. And I will tell you that one of the supporting organizations, I don't know if the person is still on the call, is from Spectrum Designs, that works with people with special needs in our community. And they're one of the supporting organizations. And we're going to see if we can try to teach some of their participants crochet. And even if we can't, we think.
The Nicholas Center.
Oh, hi. Are you there?
Hi. It's Brooke from the Nicholas Center.
Oh, great. So, yeah, so.
We are so excited and thrilled to be a part of this.
Yeah, so we're hoping that some of the participants at the Nicholas Center might be able to help us with sorting the squares by color or design or things like that, so we can find something that all participants can do. So we're going to work on that also.
Great,
So
thank you.
Thank you for being here, Brooke.
Of course, and it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for the invite and including us. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is there anything? Trish, do you have anything else?
I do not, just to say thank you everyone for coming. This is such a turnout. It's really quite exciting. We're looking forward to the whole process.
We're really looking forward to it.
And really an easy way, if you get lost, you can always call the Residence Forward office. If you haven't had a chance to write down email addresses or, connect through the chat. And I'm sure with Eleanor and Diana, I can help connect the two of you as well. I think I have both of your email addresses.
Okay, that would be great. But I really, that was a great idea.
Yes, if you didn't get the email address, it's in the chat and there were a bunch of other resources posted.
Yeah.
So before we close, make sure you check if there's anything you're missing.
And please tell your non-crocheting friends that they can participate too, because we do need people to tree measure and help us hang them up. And if for the installation, if you have any, it's an advantage to be a tall friend for the installation. So if you know any people like that, that would be great. So wait, Kurt, is Kurt trying to say something, but I don't hear him? Kurt's muted. Oh. I think he's trying to say something.
Trying to unmute, but
Am I on?
Yes, you are on. Hi, Kurt.
Hi, Allison. I just wanted to thank you so much for being the inspiration for this
Oh,
wonderful
thank
project.
you. Yeah, I'm just so honored to partner with residents. I have been a residence member for a long time, but most people know my advocacy has mostly been around education and underserved communities. So I rely on residents to be my environmental experts. And I get my environmental information from residents. So I'm just excited to learn more.
But Allison, this is also beautification.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
a major mission of ours. So that's
Okay.
very nice.
Great. So Mary Alice, do you have any tips for people in making the hands or the squares?
Not really. I mean, if you know how to crochet, it's pretty self-explanatory. Allison did mention that if you read the pattern instructions, they ask for triple crochet. That to us is double crochet, the difference between English and American crocheting. But no, it actually went pretty quickly. I figured out it took about 45 minutes to do a hand. I timed it at your house. So about 45 minutes to do a hand. And I haven't crocheted. I'm mostly a knitter. I really haven't crocheted in quite a while, but I picked it right back up. So anybody who wants to learn, honestly, it's really not that hard. If you've ever done anything like it in the past, you can certainly give it a try. If you know how to hold yarn in your hand and and tension, you're 90% of the way there.
Yeah. And the creative bug class is there have some taught by a woman named Cal Patch. Cal is her first name and Patch is her last name. And she's one of my favorite crochet teachers. I've taken some of her classes on Zoom and in person. And she's a really good teacher and she explains things very well.
Allison, I just had a quick thought about the I love you.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be its own yarn bomb, like on an oval background and just a hand like that, instead of trying to figure out how to.
Oh, that we could maybe do that.
Right, because I think, maybe there's a way to do it, but in other, we could put on trees that, or above that, above the hugging, that could be a hand like that.
Yeah.
So, we could do that. Then somebody could crochet some ovals.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Good idea.
That was a great idea. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. So
that's it. That's all I got.
Oh, Bayla is doing it.
Yes.
You see Bayla doing the sign.
yeah, I like that. I like the other idea. I love this. Even what if you had two hands, like a hand on each side and the other hand in the middle?
Right. Let's see how many hands we end up with.
Two hands gripping the wrists of the hand that's doing the I love you sign.
Right.
And then there's a lot of different ways you could do it. And I understand totally, Diana, your thing about that it doesn't go like that. It goes
yeah.
like this, not like this.
Okay. So anyway, and thank you, Bob, for helping tonight. Did a great job walking me through all this technology. And thank you, Rachel. Is she still here?
Rachel had to go to another meeting. So.
Oh, Rachel had to go to another meeting. Okay. So if, if you think of anything else, just email us at yarnarmsaroundport@gmail.com and I will answer you and we can be in touch. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Thank you,
Thank
library.
you, Allison.
Thank you, Allison.
Bye.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.